Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everyone. I will call this meeting to order. Today is November 14th on Tuesday, and we will be going into closed session. So before we adjourn to closed session, City Attorney Milpitas, please brief the public on the closed session items for today.
Thank you, Mayor, for your consideration today. You have two items. Item A is conference with labor negotiators pursuant to GC section 54957.6. The agency designated representative is Rick Bolanos with LCW. Excuse me. The bargaining units are LAUNA, UPEC, which includes ProTech, MEA, MidCon, IAFF, and MPOA. Item B is conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation pursuant to GC section 54956.9. The case is In Re Aqueous Film Foams Products Liability Litigation. This is a multi-district litigation number 2:18-MN-02873, and this is the city as a class member.
Okay, thank you very much, City Attorney Milpitas. And now I will call for public comment on this closed session item.
Mayor, prior to public comment, may I call roll?
Please.
Councilmember Barbadillo, Vice Mayor Chua, Councilmember Lien, Councilmember Fan,
Present.
Mayor Montano.
And I am here. Thank you for that. Okay, so now public comment. I don't see anybody from the public. Anyone on Zoom? Okay, we will adjourn to closed session. Thank you. Okay, meeting is now come to order. It is now 6:30, and we will come back to order. Attorney Mucho Posse, please report about the closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council received a report on labor negotiations, had a conference with legal counsel. There's nothing to report out at this time.
Thank you very much. And everyone to stand is for a pledge of allegiance. Shall begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. You may be seated. And now, invocation. So every month, we take turns, council members take turns saying an invocation, and this month is my turn. So mine is about joy. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. The Lord of our strength is our shield. We trust him with all our heart. He helps us, and our hearts are filled with joy. We sing songs and thanksgiving. And so with that, I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you. And so now we will move on. There are no presentations today. And so now we will go on to public forum. Is there anyone here that would like to say anything under public forum? And so that we can also say if you speak on any item that is not on the agenda, we can speak on it now. If not, it has to wait till the agenda, till the item is on the agenda.
Mayor, I have a card from Jim Arthur.
Okay, welcome, Jim. And we will limit it to 3 minutes.
Haven't done this too often. Hey, I'm Jim Arthur. I'm a former naval aviator, and I'd like to take this opportunity to give a tribute to a friend of mine and also praise for public servants. The friend is Phil Canini, World War II veteran, 96 years old. He passed away in June, and he used to be a fixture at all the Memorial Day ceremonies and the Veterans Day ceremonies. I used to sit next to him. I consider it an honor to do so. Phil joined the Navy at 17. He got his mother's permission to do so. And he was on the USS Missouri in the Pacific Ocean during World War II, and the kamikaze plane hit the deck, and there was shrapnel all over. He picked up a piece of it, saved it for 70 years. He took it back to Hawaii in 2015. Just for the 70th anniversary of the ending of World War II. And he gave it to the admiral there. And the admiral was overjoyed and honored. And after the war ended, when the atomic bombs were dropped, the Missouri went to Tokyo Bay. And in Tokyo Bay, where this formal surrender was being conducted, one of Phil's buddies had the duty to watch and wanted Phil to trade with him. So Phil traded. He took the duty and was at a Ford gun mount. And this gun mount looked directly down on the signing table where they were signing the surrender. There's General MacArthur. There's all the dignitaries of the Japanese delegation. Everyone else was there. Phil was 18 years old. He had the best seat in the house. So after that, they cruised around the world and went to New York, where it was home ported. And Phil got out of the Navy, joined the police department. And he was stationed in the Bronx, and the precinct is called Fort Apache. There's a movie by that name in the 80s, and it's a pretty dangerous place. Most of the officers only last there for 1 or 2 years. Phil lasted 14 years. The reason he did, he had good people skills, and also he was a big dude. I mean, he was 6'3". He was a bodybuilder, weightlifter, and nobody messed around with him. So after he retired, he came out to California to see what it was like, liked it, stayed. And we just had his memorial service last month here in Veterans Plaza at 3:00 in the afternoon. And it was set up by former police chief Lucy Carlton. She's a police chief in Los Altos. And prior to that, she was a police captain here. She was a police captain here I remember her from the late 70s, early 80s. And she was his good friend. He called her his California daughter. And she took care of him. And can I continue?
You can continue.
Okay. And she continued. Okay. Thanks. And she set up the memorial, and she set up a flag folding ceremony. The flag folding is complex. It's what you do at military funerals. And the people who were supposed to do it canceled at the last minute. So she didn't know what to do. She said, well, I have trouble. So what do I do when you have trouble? She said, call the cops. So she called Chief Hernandez. And two of his fine officers, Dave Morris, Sergeant Dave Morris and Officer Jason Dahl, came out on short notice on their day off to do the flag folding. Now, they were back here practicing because you don't do that every day. So they say, we want to make sure we get it right. It's easy to screw it up.
We want to thank you. We want to thank you for honoring your good friend. And if we can have his name, maybe we can make a commendation of some sort, honoring him for his service.
Oh, yeah, for Phil?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to
But
say.
your time has ended.
Okay, I just want to say.
I'm going to wrap it up.
Yeah, okay. For Phil, say fair winds and following seas. That's an old saying we had in the Navy. And for Chief Hernandez and his fine police department, thank you for your service.
Thank you so much for coming here.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim. And again, don't forget to give the name, Jim, to the city clerk so we can make accommodation for him. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else?
We have
forum?
V. Hoel. I'm not sure if I'm getting the last name right.
Welcome.
I'm here before you today because there's a situation regarding a water valve at my mom's property. In 2017, I reached out to the city to get a permit for a project of the front yard area.
Can you speak a little bit louder on the
Okay.
microphone? Thank you.
I spoke with a previous assistant engineer named Ben Tran and corresponded by email. Ben knew about the security situation and we needed to install a fence. After several months of corresponding with her, I was given permission to build a 4-foot fence at the setback area. I was not told there was a water valve next to the property. Ben emailed me the maps of the property for reference. After a long conversation on the phone and going back and forth on what I could build, I was told I do not need a permit for the fence because it was less than 6 feet tall. I did my due diligence and made sure the city had no issues with this project. On July 3rd, 2023, a homeowner on the street complained about his water being dirty, so that initiated the work. Maurice flushed out hundreds of gallons of water that day, and he tried moving the plastic pickets from the panel to install a G12 piece, but was unsuccessful. The reason for my petition for this appeal is to keep the fence. The fence was built to deter vandalism and people walking on the rock area and destroying the property. I had motorcycle owners with their dirt bike ride on the rocks, pedestrians kicking the rocks, and young toddlers picking up rocks and throwing them to play while their parents watched them on camera. The home was broken into. The windows were broken by vandalism a few years later. There was a stolen car parked in the driveway, and the camera alerted me, and I had to call the police several times over the years about cars parking in the driveway or blocking it. The HOA hired a company, and they drove their giant truck on the sidewalk and parked it right on the rock area to cut through the trees around them. Now the city wants me to remove it at our expense. It's unreasonable. I asked Glenn Wong, where is the water valve on the map? And no one could tell me. If there was a water valve, I would not have built the fence only to be told to tear it down after spending several thousands of dollars to install it. Also, the person who wanted his water flushed told Maurice a few weeks later that the issue was resolved when he installed new pipes on his property. No one was considered this resolution when I brought it up to them as well. We requested the water valve be relocated since Glenn said that that was an option. There's a fire hydrant 5 houses down the street that Maurice can use to flush the water, and no one wanted to use that as an option since no one wanted to call me back from the engineering department, and I requested 3 calls. That is why I called Matt Thomas, and Matt Cano was referred to me. I've tried working with everyone on this matter, and there's no other solution but to relocate the water valve and to allow us to keep the fence for our security. A homeowner should not suffer financial burdens because of the mistake of the engineering department. They need to take accountability for it. How is the trust for the city of Milpitas built when no one would take accountability for their mistake? This issue that is happening is unfair and unjust for my mom. Please
Thank
consider
you.
our petition and relocate the water valve and help us keep the fence to protect the property and keep it safe from further damages.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What I'd like for you to do is leave your name and number, and we'll have a staff member reach out to you, and hopefully we can discuss it, and hopefully we can resolve that issue.
Yes, I gave it to
Okay.
on the yellow card, and so I'll be in touch with Matt Kino.
And thank you for coming.
Thank you for listening. Have a good evening.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak under public forum? Okay. So seeing none, we will close the public forum. And now announcement of conflict of interest and campaign contributions to city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. I ask you, Mayor, and each of the council members whether he or she has any financial or personal conflict of interest related to any of the items on tonight's agenda.
Councilmember Leanne.
None.
Councilmember Fan.
None.
Mayor Montano.
And I am an N.
Thank you. I further ask the Milpitas City Council to please disclose any campaign contributions of $100 or more received within the last 12 months from any of the parties entering into contracts with the city on tonight's agenda, or contributions received from the development project applicant for development projects on tonight's agenda.
Councilmember Leanne.
None.
Councilmember Fan.
None.
Mayor Montano.
And I am an N. All right. Thank you.
Please allow the record to reflect there are no reported conflicts.
Thank you. And now moving on to the code of conduct. I will read it. Be respectful and courteous. Words, tone, and body language do matter. Model civility. Avoid surprises. Praise publicly and criticize privately. Focus on the issue, not the person. Refrain from using electronic devices while on the council dais. Disclose conflict of interest and affiliations related to agenda items. Separate governing from campaigning. The council speaks with one voice after making policy on issues. Respect the line between policy and administration. Council will hold one another accountable to comply with this code of conduct. Thank you. And now moving on to the approval of the agenda. I would like to make one request, and that is to pull item 5. Well, actually, that's going to be during consent. Never mind. I'm going to ask for and also request to defer item 11, item 12 for the prioritization items for the next city council agenda. So is there a motion to approve the agenda? I didn't hear you. I'm sorry, what? It is item 12, the prioritization. Now, and the reason being is because the other 2 council members are not here, so we want them to also be involved in this. So is there a motion?
I've spoken to at least one of the other council members that aren't able to attend tonight's meeting, and they've indicated that they would want us to proceed regardless. So I won't be seconding that.
So are they going to be on Zoom? So how are they going to vote to prioritize? So I'd like some feedback from our city attorney. I'm not sure how to handle that one.
So to table an item, you'd need a motion and a second. At this point, there is a motion on the table. Have not heard a second.
So there's no second, so it has died. Okay, next, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as submitted.
So it was moved by Councilmember Lin, and it was seconded by Councilmember Anthony Fan. And now we will vote.
Councilmember Leanne,
Aye.
Councilmember Fan,
Aye.
Mayor Montano,
And I am an aye. Thank you for that. So the motion has been approved. And now we will be moving on to the consent calendar. So staff, do you have any comments on the consent calendar?
No comments on the consent calendar.
Again, I am going to pull item C5, and that's concerning the Dagupan Sister City MOU off the consent calendar for discussion at the end of the meeting. Is it okay for the consent calendar to proceed as agendized? So I want to call for public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to make any comments on the public comments on the consent calendar? Seeing none, let's make a motion. Their motion.
Motion to approve the
Consent calendar.
consent item except for C5.
Thank you. Is there a second? So it has been moved by Councilmember Lin and seconded by Anthony Fan, Councilmember Fan. Thank you for that. Okay, so now we will call for the vote.
Councilmember Leanne,
Aye.
Councilmember Fan,
Aye.
Mayor Montano,
And I am an aye. Thank you for that. And now moving on to item 11. Actually, item community development, that is item 9, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor Montano. Our first item is a report from our economic development team. We have our economic development director, Alex Andrade, here, as well as Michael Thomas, and they will provide a report to you on this year's Manufacturing Day. And there are also certificates of commendation for the event collaborators. I'll turn the time over to Director Andrade for his presentation.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, City Manager Thomas. Good evening, Mayor Montano. Good evening, Councilmember Lian and Councilmember Fan. We're really excited to talk about Manufacturing Day. We just hosted our 7th annual Manufacturing Day. Took place on October 13th. We were able to partner with 2 local companies in KLA and Flex, as well as the Milpitas Unified School District. It was a smashing success. It was the first Manufacturing Day in person since 2019. We had over 100 people participate, and special thank you to Mayor Montano, Councilmember Lian, and although she's not here, thank you to Vice Mayor Chua, who all participated. I believe you were there for the majority of the day. You had the whole day. There you go. And you had an opportunity to see just the whole fun that our local students had an opportunity to participate in. The purpose of Manufacturing Day is a workforce development program, and it is to expose and introduce young people to future manufacturing opportunities and job opportunities. So it takes many, many months to put this program together. So I'm going to bring up our economic development specialist, Michael Thomas, who's going to give you a brief presentation. And then also we're going to show a video from that day. So I want to say special thanks to Michael Thomas. He did a fantastic job, and we're looking forward to our 8th annual event in 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Andrade. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. I'm Michael Thomas, the Economic Development Specialist, and I would like to ask that the slide presentation that I prepared be brought up on screen at this time. Thank you. So yeah, I will get started. Anyway, so as Director Andrade mentioned, approximately 100 people attended the event, including 60 high school students from Milpitas' area high schools, as well as city and school district officials. Of course, city representatives, of course, Mayor Montano, Vice Mayor Chua, and Councilmember Leanne attended, in addition to Economic Development Trade Commissioners Chris Norwood and Lynn Rice, as well as City Manager Thomas and Deputy City Manager Matt Cano. And also special thanks goes to our public information team led by Charmaine Angelo, whose team provided videography and photography services, as well as the video you'll be seeing later on in this presentation. And we also like to thank the MUSD teachers and our representatives from Chamber of Commerce and community members who are also at the event. Next slide, please. So Manufacturing Day is an initiative of the Manufacturing Institute to inspire and build the future manufacturing workforce and generate awareness about the manufacturing industry. This event is traditionally held on the first Friday of October, but communities around the country celebrate Manufacturing Day throughout the month with various events, including facility tours, educational fairs, hiring events, and classroom visits. This event introduces high school students to career opportunities in the manufacturing industry and exposes employers to members of Milpitas' future labor force. The nexus to city policy is action item 17.1 of the Economic Development Strategy and implementation actions, which includes continued support for Manufacturing Day and to introduce youth to potential social and economic mobility opportunities through jobs in manufacturing. Next slide, please. As Director Andrade mentioned, preparing for this event takes several months, which began back in April. And then picked up steam during the summer and intensified during a 10-week period where city staff collaborated with MUSD, the Manufacturing Institute, KLA Corporation, and Flex, who are our site hosts, as well as local businesses in preparation and planning and executing this year's event. And tasks included drafting and issuing collecting documentation to attend the event, coordinating student transportation, event scheduling, logistics, and materials, and designing and ordering event materials like T-shirts and banners, and coordinating lunches and videography and photography. Next slide, please. Presentations, activities included presentations, panel discussions, and Q&A sessions with company representatives, as well as facility tours and product and process demonstrations, including students touring clean rooms in bunny suits at KLA Corporation to observe business activities, and they wear those bunny suits to prevent contamination in the lab. So even dust cannot get into these components, for example. And then students participated in a simulated manufacturing activity at Flex to learn about Six Sigma, which is a method to improve processes by reducing defects, minimizing variation, and increasing quality and efficiency. Next slide, please. And on this slide, we have a video piece that was produced and prepared that captures the event. And this, as I mentioned, this video was prepared by the Public Information Office team led by Charmaine Angelo. And it captures the essence of Manufacturing Day. And so I'd like to have you view it at this time. And if we can get audio. We still don't have audio. Thanks for looking into that.
Share. Share. No, share again in Zoom.
Okay, hold on. Share in Zoom.
And then there's a checkbox right there with audio. Yeah.
Okay. Nope, it's
Hey, there we go.
And we are celebrating Manufacturing Day, and we have invited our Milpitas High School students in partnership with the Milpitas Unified School District, and they learn so many amazing things, how to be able to create better products for the whole world.
Of course, we want to thank KLR for having us here. The last time we were here, I think, was in 2019.
When I think about Manufacturing Day, I think about the possibilities for our students and our families. This is an investment by the community for the future of our community.
Here in Silicon Valley, we all know the names Google, Facebook, Instagram, but we may not be familiar with the wonderful opportunities for career that are in our own backyard, such as KLA, Flex, and so many more. This is an experience that allows our learners to feel what it is to work beyond what they might do while they're in school, and to see that there are people like themselves who started off in the world not really knowing what they wanted to do, but then finding their niche in advanced manufacturing, because there are so many different aspects that make up the whole in that industry.
It's nice to be able to open our doors here and welcome in the schools and students that are interested in what the future might hold for them. In manufacturing, we get the ability to touch things, make things, develop things. We work with all the biggest customers in the world. So we get a chance to not only work at one company, but see a lot of companies' different products. And with that, we're able to learn so many different things and help our customers with advantages of knowledge and information. We've been able to take these students and introduce them to the lean concepts of how to make things in a team, how to work together, and how to see pass and fail rejects on these projects that they made.
We're really excited to be a part of Manufacturing Day today to show off the semiconductor industry to the Milpitas high school students. And we hope that that gives them an opportunity to explore new educational opportunities for themselves, or get other friends and family excited about what we do here at KLA and the opportunities we have to offer.
This event is special because it is the first in-person event since 2019. The previous 3 events were virtual fairs, but we are so happy to be back in person to make this event more dynamic and meaningful for our target audience, which is the students.
From a young age, I was interested in how big piece of machinery, small piece of machine, how everything works. If anything was moving, I was really interested to see how they move and why they move, and all of the important details. When I got the opportunity to come to KLA, a semiconductor company, and see how everything works, I considered it a really fun experience and enjoyable time here.
I've had access to computers at a very young age. Like, I had my own personal computer, was 8 years old. And when I was browsing on the internet or using applications, I always wondered how computers always made things actually appear on the screen. Going here to KLA today has shown me what the workplaces I'll be working at will be like, and it was very fun to be here.
It is a great opportunity to have the students learn and be ready for their job in the very near future. And I believe that they are going to be the next generation.
Manufacturing is one of the most important sectors of our local economy, and Manufacturing Day is a key to raise awareness among our students about future job opportunities and to understand better what the opportunities are in the manufacturing sector. Often these types of activities happen in buildings that we drive by every day, but we don't actually know what's happening there. And Manufacturing Day gives them an opportunity to walk inside and see some of the really interesting and innovative products that are being developed here in Milpitas.
Thank you. That video will be coming to a certain city website near you. Anyway, again, thank you to our PIO team for making that video. And another piece of recognition I'd like to make note of is that back on October 24th, the Milpitas Unified School District School Board recognized city staff and our event partners, KLA Corporation and Flex, as well as MUSD staff for their preparation and execution and planning of that event. So we are grateful for that recognition, and we're here returning that favor this evening. And what was unique about that school board meeting is that there were about a half dozen students who shared their own personal testimonials about the value and experiences they had at Manufacturing Day. Next slide, please. So the recommendation before you this evening is to receive this report and issue commendations to the Manufacturing Day event collaborators from Flex, KLA, Milpitas Unified School District, and city staff. Unfortunately, there are no representatives from KLA with us this evening, but we do have representatives from Flex, the school district, and the city. So this concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you very much. That's awesome. Great job. So I think we can call for, you had mentioned about some commendations. Okay, we can go ahead and give them out to, yeah, we can, let's all go down.
Okay, first up, representing Milpitas Unified School District is engineering and architecture instructor Paul Okoye, who also attended Manufacturing Day. Mr. Okoye, please come forward. And if you'd like, you're welcome to provide some remarks if you wish.
Yeah, right here. Okay. I'd like to recognize able superintendent. She's always on top of things. And Miss Dennis Coleman, and of course Miss Hutchinson. This would never have been possible without all three of them. Thank you so much.
Next up, we would like to recognize the representatives from Flex. Here representing Flex this evening is Senior Director of Materials, Mickey Christensen, who was also one of our key collaborators for this event. Please welcome Mickey Christensen.
I didn't prepare a speech, but I'm known to be long-winded, so be ready. Now, I want to thank Michael for everything he's done. This was not only a good experience for the students, but everyone that participated in Manufacturing Day at work. I mean, they talked about it for days. It was, we prepared for it. We had a great time. We had so much fun. And after it was over, it really was good. And we felt proud to be a part of Milpitas and to be able to, give back to the community a little bit. And hopefully all of these students will come work at Flex someday. Thank you. Thank you so much.
As mentioned, KLA couldn't be here this evening, but we will deliver that commendation to them later this week. And lastly, we want to recognize city staff. First, our public information officer, Charmaine Angelo, and her team for the production work that they've done, which you saw in that video earlier, as well as economic development staff for this event. This is a team effort. I've talked enough, Charmaine.
Thank you for the commendation, but more importantly, I think it's important for us to be able to document these types of experiences, because when we talk about it and not see it visually, then people tend to forget. We were really excited to be able to capture this moment for the city, and more videos to come and more Manufacturing Day event partnerships.
And that concludes this presentation, the 7th annual Manufacturing Day event. And as Director Andrade mentioned, we look forward to the 8th annual event next year. Thank you again for your support, council members, community members, and business partners.
Thank you, everyone. That was an awesome video. Really appreciate that. Are there any comments from the public on this item?
I have no public speaker cards.
Okay, is now any comments from our colleagues? Does anybody have anything to say?
Thank you, Mayor. And I want again to thank the partners in making this Manufacturing Day possible for our students at MUSD, and Charmaine for all your hard work in putting the videos together. Michael and Alex for working endlessly, putting together, and lunch was great there too. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, this is a prime example of how the city and the school district work together for our students' future and for them to actually be at the manufacturing sites. They will never forget that. So thank you, staff, for doing a wonderful job, and for also our public information officer and your aide for putting that video together. That was awesome. That was really nice. Thank you very much for all that. Okay. And thank you, audience. Thank you for coming out, Flex, and for being here for that. And then now moving on to item 10, we're going to, I'll take it over for the, turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Our next item is a presentation on a proposed mixed-use project at 70 North Main. This is the site of the former Quincy Barbecue. And staff is here to present some preliminary information about the proposed project and to receive some direction from council on a proposed shared parking agreement. So we have our senior planner, Michael Passati, here to provide some information about the proposed project.
Thank you, City Manager Thomas, and good evening, Mayor, council members, fellow staff, and members of the Milpitas community. Again, my name is Michael Passati. I'm a senior planner here with the City of Milpitas. And the presentation this evening is to review a potential public-private partnership between the property owners of 70 North Main Street and the city itself. We'll need a presentation that should come up shortly. Next slide, please. Thank you. In June 2023, Terry Prius submitted a pre-application to replace an existing building, also known as Quincy's Barbecue, with a new mixed-use development. The pre-application would be to demolish the existing one-story 1,150 square foot vacant restaurant building and to develop a new two-story 5,000 square foot mixed-use building on a 0.06 acre lot located at 70 North Main Street. This site is located south of the Milpitas Library and North Calveras overcrossing. The rendering to the right is the conceptual facade of the proposed mixed-use building. A project like this typically wouldn't go to City Council for review, but since the applicant may require utilizing existing city infrastructure, we believe it requires early review by the City Council for discussion. Next slide, please. Here's another view of the development. The proposed project would include approximately 2,100 square feet of ground floor retail restaurant area and 2 apartments on the second floor. One apartment would be 2 bedrooms and approximately 1,100 square feet in size, while the other apartment would again have 2 bedrooms and be approximately 1,300 square feet in size. Both apartments would be accessed from the ground level of a ground level door facing south into an outdoor seating area, which is shown in this rendering as the umbrellas and chairs in the diagram. The outdoor dining area is on city-owned land, and the developer would need an exclusive access to the land to develop that area, as well as access the above ground apartments. of the design we're looking at today. Also, you may notice the development has no on-site parking. In the city of Milpitas, typically on-site parking is required for all development projects. So the remainder of this presentation will focus on the outdoor seating area and the potential sharing of parking with agreements necessary to allow this project to move forward. Next slide, please. Here we see the satellite view of the property. 70 North Main is identified in the yellow. Much of this discussion will be about the shared public parking lot, which cannot be seen in this image because it's located directly underneath the Calveras overpass. Next slide, please. For the project to develop, the applicant would need to apply for the following: a site development permit to construct the building, and a conditional use permit to allow exceptions to standards and to approve the shared land use and parking agreement. This was communicated to the applicant, but since the land use and shared parking agreement would be for the city-owned property, both the applicant and city staff felt that city council will need to initially review to direct staff to start the agreement process that they see fit. Furthermore, city staff wanted to inform the city council that the concerns of the city if council directs city staff to work on such an agreement. Next slide, please. During the pre-application review, planning staff visited the property to document any physical challenges or concerns for the development. Staff first looked at the area where the outdoor seating is proposed. On the left is the existing area as seen today. The right is the site plan showing where the tables and chairs are being proposed, which would be on that vacant piece right there. And we used the yellow highlight to demonstrate the direct areas. As shown on the existing conditions picture, the land area that is being dedicated for a storm drain. A storm drain is needed to collect water runoff for the parking lot itself. Next slide, please. The second part of this application would require a shared parking agreement to formally utilize the parking lot as shown above. On the left, we show the existing lot, and on the right, we have a partial site plan of the parking lot. The parking lot is a ½ acre in size with approximately 35 parking spaces. There are an additional 7 parking spaces on the parking lot, but those are owned by the property owner of 38 North Main. We all know that as Tequila Shots. Next slide, please. If a land use agreement was created, the city of Milpitas would lease land to the applicant to use for outdoor seating and access to the residential apartments. The main concern is that the storm drain location would need to be considered, which is located at the center of the open space area. The city has other options, such as agreeing to a lease arrangement for a smaller area than that full 800 square feet of area in order to remove any storm drain portions from the impacted area. Next slide, please. If a shared parking agreement was created, which is the second portion of this project, the applicant and the city would have to determine the amount of spaces required. Planning department determines or calculates spaces based on square footage of floor area. Since this is a conceptual project, we had to roughly calculate and estimate the amount of parking required for this type of park development. But we wanted to show you the tables that we use for the residential use and the restaurant use above. These are the tables we would use to calculate that parking. For residential apartments, the city would require 2 covered spaces per residential unit, as well as an additional parking space for guests. For restaurants, the city requires 1 parking space for each 39 square feet of dining. Next slide, please. Using those calculations shown in the previous zoning tables, the applicant would need 5 parking spaces for the residential apartments and 21 spaces for the ground floor commercial restaurant. This would make the total parking requirement of up to 26 parking spaces. It should be noted that the required parking is based on square footage of the proposed use. In order to provide the city council an estimate, staff is sharing with you that we had to make some assumptions. If the applicant proposes to develop retail instead of a restaurant space, the amount of required parking would significantly decrease. Lower parking requirements can also be met if the applicant proposes to develop 2 commercial spaces, 1 retail and the other a restaurant use. Next slide, please. Additional concerns about the shared parking agreement involves the future Calveras widening project and establishing lease agreement terms. As noted within your AR, the Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority, also known as VTA, in cooperation with the City of Milpitas and the California Department of Transportation, Caltrans, has initiated a capital improvement project to widen Calveras Boulevard. Construction is tentatively scheduled for 2027, but there are no design plans to date. Those plans may impact the existing configuration of the parking lot, which would impact the number of parking spaces the city could provide. Also, the 2027 construction date is tentative, impacting the lease agreement timelines terms that we may have. Outside of the parking concerns, the proposed development is consistent with the city's economic development policies, specifically associated with encouraging change and revitalization of Main Street and other commercial corridors in need of maintenance and or modernization. Next slide, please. So the city has two alternatives. If the city council sees the project should move forward, you can direct staff on recommending the developer submit an application to develop and direct staff to work with the applicant on a shared lease agreement and parking agreement. If this alternative is chosen, staff would prefer to return to city council at a later date with further analysis of the Calveras widening project and its impact on the city's parking lot. We will also need to discuss any liability concerns we may have. If the city council determines the city is unable to entertain the shared lease agreement and the parking agreement, the developer would have issues with providing the parking for their project as required by city code. If the council decides on this option, we lose the opportunity to support redevelopment and maximize the use of city only. Next slide, please. If the city directs the applicant to move forward with the project, we share this with all development projects. We reference CEQA. We believe, we being planning department, believe the project would be considered exempt from CEQA for section 15332 of the CEQA guidelines and section 15182, since the project in this type of development is consistent with the existing Midtown and future Gateway specific plan. Next slide, please. So in closing, staff recommends the city council receive the summary of the pre-application for the mixed-use development and direct city staff on a preferred alternative. This concludes staff summary of the project, and I'm available to answer any questions. I'd further like to introduce Terry Prius from the Prius family, who owns the property at 70 North Main Street. I believe he's here to answer any questions too. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Now, would you like to say if you have the applicant would like to say a few words on your project?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Montana. Good evening, Member Pham and Council Member Leanne. We're excited. My family has owned the property for over 40 years. We believe this project will start the revitalization of Main Street. What we'd like to see here is more than just our project to start. We want to see something like what downtown Campbell has or downtown Los Gatos, where it's just a strip of stores and restaurants and Main Street is just popping and going. We believe there's potential. We definitely want to invest in the city. The one thing, I understand that there's a bunch of obstacles we need to overcome in regards to parking. And I don't know if one could be maybe an exemption. I don't know if the city would be able to grant an exemption so that our project is not required to have parking. If we're not able to come to a shared parking agreement, but as developers and owners, we're willing to work with the city, and I believe staff's been great. Everyone that we've worked with so far at the city of Milpitas has been helpful. They return phone calls and all but positive feedback from everybody. So, and if you guys have any questions for me, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thank you. Now we will go on to call for public comment on this item.
I have no public speaker cards.
And no one on Zoom, Miss?
We cannot take Zoom public comment.
Okay. All right. So now we will go to council discussion and feedback, and then you can also ask the applicant questions. Colleagues have any questions to the applicant?
Thank you. Yes, thank you. I don't have any questions. I met with the applicant probably a couple of months ago, and I also encourage applicant to work with staff, because if you want to move things fast, take their recommendations. And I'm glad to hear that you mentioned you did work with staff and staff's great. So I'm happy to hear that. Well, I said I don't have questions, but now I do have a question for you. So do you know yet what type of restaurant's going to be in there, and how many tables?
No, we don't have type of restaurants. We've reached out to several people. We've reached out to a breakfast place that's primarily in San Jose. We've reached out to Phil's Coffee, and we've reached out to one more coffee shop. And the reasoning behind one of the design on the layout of the actual building is we provided a door on the side where the tables were, because one of the tenants we talked to wanted to be able to serve or even have it use it as a service window, as an order pickup type deal. So that's why we placed that door there. So we've reached out to several restaurants. Everybody wants to see where the design is going to end up, how the parking is going to work out. Nobody wants to commit yet.
And did staff tell you where else your patrons can park? Are there any other parking spaces around the structures?
So we have the library.
Thank you,
Are there
Councilor. It's Michael.
street parking or other parking?
So there is no street parking on South Main. There's actually, ironically, the parking lot is what fronts the parking lot is a bus stop. There can be discussions with other private property owners for shared parking. There's also potential at the library or even the hospital. Those would work because a shared parking agreement requires that that whomever shares the parking be within a certain distance, 300 feet, and those two parking lots do provide adequate parking. There's a lot of misnomers. There's a lot of because we're not sure how much parking will officially be needed until the applicant and the city can kind of determine exactly how much floor area will be.
Right. It depends on the type of business and the type of restaurants too. If it's a coffee shop, it's in and out much faster. Maybe you don't need that much more parking spaces. But if it's a sitting dining, then you may need to have enough parking space for your customers, right?
Right. That's true. We take out conversion for parking is different than our dining parking conversion. And so in order to give the council the best information we could, we used the most conservative parking requirements as if it was a sit down restaurant, which is 1 per 39 square feet. As well as the council also knows, per your direction, we are updating the Main Street Gateway Plan that may have different parking requirements too. So there's a number of different things happening. And we did want to share just with the council and to everyone that we don't have the design of the parking lot yet because it's Calaveras overcrossing. There's a very good chance that there still will be parking there. We just don't know how many spaces. So we just wanted to share that with the council to let them know. We don't have all the information at this time.
Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Lin. So is there anyone else that would like to make a comment at this time? If not, I will make a couple of comments. So thank you, staff, for all your hard work, and thank you, applicant, for wanting to help revitalize Main Street. I think that's one of the council's goals, is to uplift that area. And you and staff, you did mention about the widening of Calaveras. I did speak to VTA since I serve on the VTA board as an alternate, and I remember some of the stats, the prioritization, and we're not a priority. The Cal, it's not. It's right now we're going through the CEQA, or the environmental impact, And as you know, that takes a couple of years. And we also, in order for it to be funded, we have to be shovel ready. That means that the city has to dish out millions. And you know that, we all know that. So that is going to take, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen 2027. It's not going to happen. Just want to make that clear. It'll be probably over 5 years, maybe 7 years. Hopefully if the next council keeps pursuing it, like we have been doing, Councilmember Vice Mayor Ian have been pushing for this with VTA, because she serves on the Policy Advisory Committee for VTA and I serve on the board. But so I just wanted to make that clear. It's not going to happen in 2027. So, and the other thing the parking, so we have, how many parking slots do we have in that area? From I think last time I counted was 30 something.
Correct. No, good job. It's 35.
35.
There's 42 parking spaces in the parking lot. 7 of them are deeded. I'm very confident are deeded. They're on the property of 38 in North Main, but they're within that parking lot.
Right.
So 35 we have for the city.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I noticed there's still parking on the side of this on Windsor. So I know I counted there's 5 on right behind Quincy's Barbecue. You know, with that there's a automotive shop.
Correct.
So there's 5 there. And then across the street where we have our carts, in the grocery carts, that area, there's parking there. And I counted 13 parking spaces. And then in the childcare center on Windsor, on Carlo Street, there's 5 parking spaces. And then on Windsor again, on the other side, where near the church, there's 9 parking spaces. So even though on the parking itself, there's 30 something, but you still have more on the sides.
On the streets.
On the street.
Of Windsor and Carlo.
On Windsor and Carlo Street.
Sure.
There's parking there. So parking is not an issue. And like I said, the Calaveras widening is not going to happen anytime soon, because we have to be shovel ready. That's the only way that BTA will prioritize. And to be shovel ready, you have to have the money. I mean, that's like millions, and that's not going to happen anytime soon. But going back to the project, if I know that we have a formula, if you have studio, 2-bedroom, you're going to have 5 parking spaces for the tenants. And that would be my only concern, is that you've got to make sure that there's parking for them, and the other, I think the other parking is you can accommodate that. But it would be nice to see, some type of a coffee shop or something there. But I think this is a great project, and it's a move, because the city council wants to see that area improve, and this would be a win-win for everybody. And not only that, but it's space that it creates economic development, and that's what we want. Because once you start getting businesses there, they provide sales tax, and sales tax, again, goes to the city. It provides revenue for the city, and it also provides a need in that area. So I think this is a great project. So, but please come back again, keep working with staff, and come back again, because I know this is just a presentation. There's no vote, from my understanding, right? So it's just for you to present.
Right, Mayor. I think we're just asking for direction, and I'm getting the feeling that, and maybe we want to add one of the slides.
So yeah, just continue working with staff to make it happen.
That sounds like clear direction.
That's what one of our goals is, to try to improve that area for everybody, for the future generations. So.
Good evening, Mayor. If I may request, no, I think we're all on the same page in feeling that this would be a good project for the area. But our specific question is related to whether the council would support staff exploring a shared parking agreement, because there is parking on the streets nearby, but per the code, we're only allowed to count street parking right in front of the business. So they would technically, to comply with our parking requirements, you know, need a way to address the parking deficit, because the project will require up to 26. It could be a lot lower, given other factors. For example, if there's more retail and also if the gateway plan goes through with potential parking reductions. But I think even with a significant reduction in the required number of parking spaces, they would still need to provide that somehow. So we do want to ask if council would support potentially thinking of a shared parking agreement with the applicant.
Okay, yeah, I was told that this is just the first phase. The other phase is the actual apartments. But for me, my vote, I would recommend that we go ahead and do the shared parking requirements. And I'd like to hear from my colleagues.
Yeah, I'm good with the recommendation from staff about the share parking agreement. Is that including a share land use agreement?
If the council sees fit, it would be a land use agreement for that outdoor seating area and a shared parking agreement. It'd be separate but the same.
Okay, let's move with the share parking agreement.
So I'll just reiterate through the chair that we're not agreeing to a shared parking agreement. You're directing staff to move forward with the applicant to create a shared parking agreement. And I believe and a land use agreement for that 800 square foot area for outdoor seating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for your presentation. I guess you have the direction already. Right.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so.
Please, Ned.
Just by way of quick clarification, I believe staff was seeking the council direction on this particular item because the parking agreement and the agreement for leasing the land for private use would be an agreement would have to come to the council for approval. So the site development permit, the conditional use, all those things could go to the planning commission, but this particular agreement, and so everything would come to the council. So before we went that far, we wanted to be sure that the council was comfortable with putting that together, which is why it's before you tonight for a preliminary discussion.
And that means they're willing to pay for that parking space.
Well,
the shared lease, yeah.
The negotiating will be made and it'll all be presented.
It'll be all in there. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, so the next item is item 11. This is for the 600 Valley Way. And this is just to receive a presentation, but go ahead, Ned, and if you can explain that.
Yeah, very similar to the last presentation. This again is another proposed project. It's at a preliminary stage, somewhat conceptual, but the staff can describe the project that's before you, and there are some questions around how to meet the requirements of the affordable housing ordinance. We have our other senior planner, Lillian Van Hoa, here to present the staff report, as well as the property owner and their consultant are here as well tonight.
Thank you, City Manager Thomas. Good evening, Mayor and Council members, fellow staff, residents, and members of the public. My name is Lillian Van Hoa, and I'm a senior planner with the City of Milpitas. Can I have the slides up, please? Thank you. Next slide, please. As mentioned, the property is located at 600 Valley Way. This is an aerial view of the project site. It is located off of Valley Way, adjacent to I-880 freeway, with a single-family residential neighborhood to the north, a 7-Eleven convenience store, and the Arco gas station to the east, and a Best Western hotel to the south. The site is comprised of 3 lots with 5 office buildings. Next slide, please. In total, the site is 7.22 acres. It is currently zoned C2 general commercial with a general plan land use designation of GNC general commercial. as part of the Midtown Specific Plan update, which will be renamed the Milpitas Gateway Main Street Specific Plan, the project site will be annexed into the plan area. The project site will be located within the new Calaveras Gateway Zoning District of the MGSP, which is envisioned as a regional destination and gateway to Milpitas with higher intensity mixed use and residential development, reaching 4 to 5 stories in height. Within the specific plan, the subject site will be rezoned to a new implementing zoning district. It will be called the Gateway Mixed Use Zone, GW-MU for short, as part of the new Gateway District. The new zone will require a minimum density of 18 dwelling units per gross acre and a maximum density of 65 dwelling units per gross acre. The project site is also designated as a rezone site within the city's current housing element. Rezone sites are parcels identified on the housing site's inventory list that can be rezoned to allow residential uses or greater residential densities. Next slide, please. Here is a zoning map of the project site. So the properties to the north are zoned R16, as shown in the yellow on the screen, and stands for single family residential. Properties to the east and south are zoned C1, neighborhood commercial. Next slide, please. The preliminary project proposed includes a subdivision of 3 existing lots into 2 parcels to construct up to 244 units with an average density of 33.8 dwelling units per gross acre. Lot A will be approximately 1.6 acres and Lot B will be 5.62 acres. Lot B will consist of 104 townhome condominium units with a maximum height of 3 stories. Each unit will have tuck-under parking accessed by alleys and providing a parking ratio of 2 spaces per dwelling unit. The project site also features a picnic area and a playground. An integral part of the project site includes a central paseo weaving through the site to provide opportunities for walking, running, and passive recreation. Additionally, approximately 2,600 square feet of community serving space will be located at the southern end of the central paseo to provide community amenities and a leasing office function. The preliminary project is also proposing to dedicate Lot A, so 1.6 acres, to be dedicated to the city for future housing, affordable housing development. Next slide, please. So here is the preliminary site plan. You can note the picnic area and internal playground areas, as well as the internal paseos weaving throughout the site. And Lot A to this on the southern end of the project site to be dedicated to the city. Next slide, please. The city's affordable housing ordinance requires all new residential development projects of 10 units or more that are designed and intended for permanent occupancy to construct 15% of the total number of dwelling units within the development as affordable units. The AHO also offers alternative means of compliance with the city's ordinance with approval from the City Council. In order to comply with the affordable housing ordinance, the ordinance requires the applicant to provide 16 townhome units at the moderate income level and 21 apartment units at the low income level, so a total of 37 units. And the applicant is proposing that in lieu of building affordable housing on site, they would like to dedicate Lot A to the city to build up to 140 affordable units. And the City Council may permit an applicant to dedicate land within the city of Milpitas to the city or a city-designated local nonprofit housing developer in lieu of construction of some or all of the required affordable units. The City Council may also permit payment in lieu, which is currently valued at $48.26 per square feet for residential townhomes, the city council may also permit an offsite project where the applicant could construct some or all of the affordable units offsite, but within the city. Next slide, please. If the city council accepts the land dedication, the city's general fund would incur operations, maintenance, and capital infrastructure costs associated with the existing building until a development partner is selected for the site. A funding source would need to be identified to pay for these operations, maintenance, and capital infrastructure costs of the existing property as part of the conditions of approval for the project. It would be necessary for the city to conduct due diligence with regard to the state and value of the lot prior to acceptance, including that the property dedicated meets all of the requirements of the Milpitas Municipal Code, section 12-1- subsection 4.02, including the additional grant necessitated by subsection 3B. Next slide, please. Oh, additionally, if we go back to the previous slide, I forgot to mention that another alternative is that the applicant is willing to also demolish the existing building on the site and basically provide a graded site for a city to work with a affordable housing developer to then build the affordable housing as well. Next slide, please. If the project applies for formal entitlements prior to the adoption of the specific plan, the subject site will need a general plan amendment and to also be rezoned to a different zoning classification to allow for the higher density. As part of the preliminary application, the applicant has proposed to rezone it to R3 multiple family high density residential, which permits 12 to 20 dwelling units per acre. If the project applies for formal entitlements after the adoption of the MGSP, the site will be subject to the new development standards and related density allowances in place. And so the new zoning designation for the site will be GW-MU, which will allow 18 to 65 dwelling units per acre. Next slide, please. So the questions for the council this evening are, would you support the land dedication offer in lieu of providing affordable housing on site? So this could mean either accepting the land as is with the building on site for the city to do as it wishes, or to have the developer demolish the building for the city and basically provide a graded site for us to select a nonprofit housing developer to work with. And then 2, in light of the Gateway Plan's vision for higher intensity development for the Calaveras Gateway District, would you support the proposed density for this project? And then lastly, do you have any additional feedback on conceptual plans for the proposed project as guidance to the developer in making modifications to the project? And that concludes staff's presentation. The applicant is here, and I believe they have a presentation as well.
Thank you. If the applicant can come and say a few words.
Sure. Thank you. Can we put up slide number 2, please? Next one, please. I'm not going to make her presentation again. I think I had 3 slides.
What's your name? Did you?
I was going to. While that's going on, good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Tim Steele, and I wanted to introduce myself. I'm the Senior Vice President of Development for the Sobrato organization. I'm here with Jeff Sobrato, my associate on this project. He is the real estate manager for development. In addition, we have on Zoom our architects, Chek Tang and Justin Zhang, as they work for Studio T Square, and Nick Samuelson, who's our landscape architect with TGP. We are here representing the current owner of the property, which is the Silicon Valley Community Foundation, who has owned the property at 600 Valley Way. I wanted to tell you a little bit of history about the site. The project was built in 1976 as a market rate mixed use, multi-tenant office and light industrial project. Approximately 20 years ago, the Sobrato organization purchased the property from the developer under the threat of default on its loan due to waning demand for the project. Shortly after, John Sobrato initiated the Family Foundation's first nonprofit center, which provide free rent space for nonprofit community serving organizations. We now have 4 in the foundation throughout the Bay Area running. So this was an important first step for the Sobratos and the nonprofit centers. The property was then donated to the Silicon Valley Community Foundation, and the Sobrato Family Foundation operates the nonprofit center. So for approximately 20 years, this has been home of tenants of the Milpitas Nonprofit Community Center. However, even before COVID, the demand for qualifying nonprofits began to wane, some through reorganizations and some consolidations, and others just didn't survive. But post-COVID, not unlike for-profit companies, nonprofits have been significantly affected by the work-from-home transition, and to the point that the Community Foundation and the Family Foundation have asked us that we look at repositioning the property to allow it to be sold and redeploying the asset in a way that better aligns with the mission statement and legal structures of the Silicon Valley Community Foundation. Jeff and I started the process by looking at how the property aligns with Milpitas' goals and land use policies. We've been working with city staff and recommended to the Community Foundation that they support that the site be included within the recently adopted housing element and on its associated housing inventory list as a housing site, which staff agreed and included in the plan. We also looked at site's characteristics, such as the site access being limited, with one point of access being the cul-de-sac off of Valley Way. We need to be sensitive to not overburdening this by planning too dense of a project. There's an existing city water main easement that dissects the site. We need to design a project that integrates this as an asset to the overall site design without the need to relocate it. The site design and placement needs to be sensitive to its adjacent uses. To the north, as pointed out, and to the east, there's single-family homes abutting the property. And to the south, there's an existing 2-story commercial hotel that's operating. Additionally, we wanted to consider the housing element's thoughts on housing density, production, and types of affordability for the site. What we have brought forward in the pre-application is the result of all these investigations and alignment I just mentioned. We feel that our proposed approach is sensitive to the goals of the recently adopted housing element, has the opportunity to produce a total of 244 units over 7.22 acres at 34 units per acre. This includes 140 affordable units and 104 market rate townhomes. It has the opportunity to produce 58% of those units as affordable units on land proposed to be dedicated to the city. The Affordable Housing Ordinance requires 15% affordable. This plan proposes 22% of the total land to be dedicated to the city for future affordable project. This approach is an option within the Affordable Housing Ordinance, which staff pointed out. The proposed city affordable housing land dedication parcel currently has a 20,000 square foot, 2-story multi-tenant office building on it. And we're proposing to either dedicate it to the city with the building if the city finds that it has value to them, or if you prefer, we can remove the building before we deliver the property. Your ordinance also requires that any dedication of land to the city in lieu of under its affordable housing ordinance requires that the site be delivered to the city clean, meaning no hazardous contacts on the property, but also curb and gutter around the property. So at a minimum, we'd be producing that, but if the city elects to find value in the existing office building, we would then put curb and gutter that would allow the office building to continue to operate. The proposed project is also sensitive to site characteristics and constraints with a balanced total unit count relative to one point of access, the cul-de-sac. Places the proposed uses in appropriate locations relative to existing adjacent uses. There's 3-story townhomes next to single-family homes and the higher density housing adjacent to the 2-story commercial hotel. The PUE, as you can see in this illustration here, throughout is incorporated as a pedestrian linkage that allows the neighborhood to the north to connect to the commercial neighborhood center at the terminus of Alleyway and Calaveras. Finally, in closing, we feel we have been thoughtful about the various characteristics of the site and the city's desire for all types of housing within its city, and would hope that you would be supportive of us moving forward with developing a full application reflective of the site plan we're presenting to you tonight. And with that, I can take questions.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much. Any questions from my colleagues, council members? Oh, actually, I need to close I need to open up the public comment. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment?
I have no public speaker. I have no public speaker cards,
Thank you.
Mayor.
Okay, so now going back to the council discussion and feedback. Councilmember Lynn.
Thank you. Tim, right? Would you come back to the podium? I have a couple of questions for you.
Thank you for the invitation.
So when you say you dedicated Lot A of 1.6 acre to the city, does that mean that the city will build affordable housing?
We've done this a couple times in other cities, and they typically would do an RFP to the affordable housing community development community, and then they would submit proposals to you. Some cities are specific and say we want it to be this kind of housing, affordable housing, and others allow the development community to respond back at what kind of affordable housing they think is appropriate for the location and for the needs of the city. And then the city vets out those proposals and then decides on whether to move forward with those or not.
I mean, it looks like it's a great offer, 1.6, and it's going to put at least 140 affordable housing units on there. But would you share with us why? Why did you dedicate that land to the city and not to develop it yourself? And
well, that's a very good question, and thank you for asking. I didn't send you it in advance, but I did allude to at the beginning of the meeting is that the property is not owned by a for-profit developer, but it is owned by the Silicon Valley Community Foundation. And by their charter, by their mission, and by their tax status, they are not real estate developers and can't be real estate developers. We have an association with them because we, as the family foundation, operate the property. And then as the for-profit side, we don't own anything, but we are there to be able to advise them on what the best way for them to sell the property. Your affordable housing ordinance allows for land dedication. We've had experience in a couple other cities of making land dedications in lieu, Palo Alto and Mountain View to be specific. And they actually valued receiving the land, controlling the land, and as they move to put it out in an RFP, they typically will offer the land as a long-term land lease, which means they control or in perpetuity, essentially, that property will be affordable within its community. Whereas typically a developer like myself might only enter into an obligation for 55 years for that to be affordable or or more or less.
Yeah.
There's benefits to the city.
When asking that question doesn't mean that I don't agree with
Okay.
you that we don't value the land. We do.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, I would thought if you as developers build the affordable housing, I would say it's much faster and easier than for us as a city to work with a nonprofit developer on the affordable housing. I may be wrong, so now I would like to bring maybe Alex or our city manager.
Good evening, Alex Andrade, Director of Economic Development.
Good evening. So with that 1.6 acre on lot A, we'll be able to build 140 affordable rental units. What's the question? What have you shared with me? If that's doable, if that is something that we can accept in lieu of the units.
Thank you. Staff is actually looking to you all to get that.
But we need to find out if that is going to be something that we can work on.
Yeah, I can respond. So as our senior planner Benoit mentioned, there are pros and there's some cons to this, certainly to the city.
Let me hear the pros first.
Well, as you indicated, there's value in that land. We're talking about land in Silicon Valley. And generally, if you're looking at industrial land, well, this is not, think of about $5 million per acre. Again, this is not that. There's value also because there's currently nonprofits located on that property. And while we have been having conversations for many months, including our city manager's office, planning, housing and economic development with Mr. Steele and Mr. Sobrato about the potential retention of some of those nonprofits. And we find the possibility of being able to retain some of those would be really important. So I think that there's several pros. Again, we would have to figure out the staffing part of this. So I guess in terms of the challenges would be, we at this particular point, we don't have the staff that would be able to issue an RFP or figure out what that mechanism is to partner with a local nonprofit. But I have had conversations with the Sobrato team behind me, and they have partners that they've worked with in the past that they likely would also, share with staff. So not sure if I was complete in my pros and cons. Obviously, there's some liability. We need to figure out what's below grade. And Tim Steele mentioned that we'd have to likely do perhaps an environmental site assessment. And maybe they've done one, an assessment site, phase 1 or phase 2.
Yeah, I guess I'm interested in knowing if it is possible for you to, or for us to have that connection with a local nonprofit developer. And if you think it is a great support in supporting the project, and that we can develop this in a timely manner as well, then that would be, a great opportunity for us to jump at it.
Yeah, Mr. Steele mentioned 2 particular projects earlier, one in Mountain View and where Google's located in North Bayshore. And so I am going to be checking in with the City of Mountain View's housing director, Wayne Chen, to learn more about that project. We also have learned about the Palo Alto example that Mr. Steele mentioned, and that's the former Fry's area or Fry's store off of El Camino. So I was planning on doing the same thing, reaching out to representatives from the city of Palo Alto to learn more about their experience and perhaps best practices so that we could come back to council and to the city manager's office to share, what worked and what didn't, maybe some lessons learned as well.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Councilmember Liam, through the chair. So one other item too, that staff has identified a couple of other potential options that we might want to explore with the developer as well. So in addition to looking at what other communities have done, we have a couple of ideas that have been brewing that we've been, so we would like to have the opportunity to explore some of those. Affordable housing is always, at the top of the agenda for the council. So if we could find a creative solution that might expand the opportunities for affordable housing, we'd like to look at that as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Lynn, and thank you, Ned. Anyone else would like to make any comments? Councilmember Ban.
Thank you. I'm actually super stoked that you guys are coming before us. I've always wanted to work with the Serato organization, and Milpitas is super thankful for all of your philanthropy and everything you've done for our community. So to be honest, I'm a bit starstruck that you guys are here because I know of your amazing reputation. I'm all for the land dedication. I think at this point in time, especially with the market, land is very valuable to city. I don't think have we ever had a land dedication of this scope before? Yeah, no, this is a big deal. And in regards to why are we trading off 140 units or whatever? It's because we have the flexibility to do so much more than 140. When we have the ability to, kind of figure out what we want in the entitlements ourselves, we can do a lot more. And I know that, we have worked with some amazing partners in the affordable housing field before. I'm confident that we'll be able to select a good partner that can build a project that we can all be proud of expeditiously. My only request for you guys is that if we approve this, for you to not go away, that your presence is still here in Milpitas, that you can work with us on something, anything. We want that relationship, and we value it tremendously, and we hope you guys can continue the conversation because we're very grateful for everything you guys do.
Thank you, Councilmember Fan, and thank you, the Serato representatives, for being here. I have a couple of questions. So you mentioned the land dedication. You're willing to demolish the building. However, what about the infrastructure for future developments? What would you include that in there?
Thank you, Mayor. You're referring to the utilities in the streets,
Right.
and so forth?
All the underground.
Yeah, we're going to upsize everything needed. We haven't started any discussions with Public Works yet, other than to verify the 8-inch water line that the city has through the PUE, but we would be upgrading and bringing in the appropriate size for everything.
Okay, so it's not just,
assuming 140 units would be your target for your site, we can accommodate that. And
yeah, we are in desperate need of senior housing, and I would love to see that site as a senior housing development. So that's great to know that you're not just proposing just to demolish the building, but also to provide the infrastructure for future housing, affordable housing. And I want to ask a question first. Have we inspected the building? Just kind of more or less looked at it, or have? Thank you, Alex.
Mayor Montano, staff is having conversations with Mr. Steele about conducting a tour of that particular existing building. So we understand it's roughly 30 years old, and we can confirm that in just a little bit. But we were hoping to have that tour before tonight. But since today is a study session, we figured we do have some time. We wanted to get a better sense of where council is feeling and engaging from the sound and looks of things. Perhaps this might give us an opportunity to do that in the next week or two, and we can report back.
Okay, good.
And I think even if council is interested, perhaps if one or two of you want to join us on that tour, I think we'll check with the city manager's office to ensure that that's okay.
All right, thank you. And also, let me ask you this question. So does this project qualify for density bonuses? Because I know that they have to be near mass transit. Is this, so that's basically what
I'm going to have our senior planner come
Okay.
and respond to that question. Thank you.
So the project by itself would not qualify technically for a density bonus because the townhome portion of the project site, they would not be providing any affordable units as part of that portion of the project. So the project would conform to, if the council accepts the land dedication to provide, to potentially build affordable housing, they would comply with the city's affordable housing ordinance, but they wouldn't qualify for any density bonus, the density bonus itself as part of like the density allowance, but they could, nor would they then be eligible for any like concessions or waivers as part of that.
So density clarification. So density bonuses are only offered for affordable housing, not just market rate or below market rate.
Correct. So if any project provides, I believe the number is 10% affordable housing on the site. So low income specifically, or moderate income for sale products, so like townhomes, then they would be eligible for the state density bonus.
All right. Okay, great. Thank you. So, the applicant, I mean, it's great to hear that, you know, you're offering the land. Well, before I go on to that, is there's that Best Inn hotel, and that's private and it's going to stay there, right? So, yeah, I've been hearing a lot of things about, you know, things that go on in that hotel. So I'm just concerned about, I know they don't want it, but anyhow, I've just been hearing some things about a lot of illegal stuff going on there. But and I'm just wondering if that's because that the section A where you're proposing the land dedication, it's near the hotel, correct?
Yeah, actually, if the clerk could put up the aerial or the map, the first of my 3 slides. There you go. This is not the best exhibit, but the way the hotel sits on the property, it backs up to the property line between our project and theirs, rather than sharing a parking lot or a door. So we don't anticipate we'd be interfacing other than the street face as you come into the cul-de-sac.
Okay.
So I would hope that by the time we build the project that your thoughts might be communicated to staff.
Yeah, that's good. And is there only one in, because isn't there a fire code that there has to be 2 exits?
Thank you. Yes. It's hard to see, but the easement, as it goes through the property, it then goes through the neighborhood, the adjacent neighborhood.
Yeah.
And there are bollards there. Currently anticipates or currently operates as a secondary fire access.
Okay.
But they're bollards that are removable. And we anticipate with creating the paseo through there that it would remain as bollard off, not allowing for vehicles into the property other than emergency.
Okay, great. And so going back to my question, I mean, it sounds great for to have that for you to dedicate the land dedication of 1.6 acres. But I'm wondering why you can't build. I mean, you're going to build this. You're proposing to build all the other, but why can't you? Because with cities, we don't have the staff. We don't have. It's going to be hard for us to find a developer that. I'm assuming, maybe not. And then the interest rates, it's hard right now for nonprofit developers to want to build because of the interest rates are so high. And
well, first off, we're not a nonprofit affordable housing developer, and we're not that experienced in. It's a very unique and very specialized business in that there's a lot of capital stacks, and they're all various, and it's an art to put that stack together. Second is when you do an all affordable project, the types of financing that are in place allow you to provide 100% affordable and get tax credits and all that. We're not experienced in any of that, but we're also not the owner of the property. It's the community foundation, and it's not within their mission and charter to be a real estate developer. And their intent, both on the townhome piece and the other, would be the sellers or the donator dedication, but they would be selling the townhomes to a townhome developer, which we don't do also. We're only involved in this particular case as a consultant to them and how to monetize and reposition the site.
okay, great. Yeah, I like I mentioned, we really lack senior housing, affordable senior housing. There's so many people that have asked. So many seniors that have asked for affordable housing. So I would love to see that go there for our seniors. We have a growing senior population in Milpitas, and just like all the other cities. But yeah, I think the land dedication is a good thing.
Thank you.
I mean, it'd be great if we could find a developer to do, but that's for another discussion. So I think we want to bring this back for when that we have 2 council members that are missing. But I would like for you to come back and we can discuss this more.
All right. May I ask, are you thinking?
I see. I will have a council member fan.
Staff, do you need a vote on this?
No, this is for no vote tonight, just for presentation for so that you would be familiar with the project, hearing it for the first time, and then just provide direction, particularly on the idea if you're comfortable with that idea of a land dedication rather than the usual way of meeting the affordable housing ordinance is to provide the units on the site. Or, we often hear about paying an in lieu fee. In this case, it's more of in lieu property that would be dedicated to the city. So if you're comfortable with that, then we can explore options. We can move forward and explore options for that. I do have, if you don't mind, Mayor, I do have a couple of comments about that. So Mr. Still mentioned that one of the requirements is that if they are dedicating property, that it has to be a clean site. And that refers to, as he mentioned, refers to no contamination. I did want to bring to your attention, he also mentioned that the site could be delivered, the city could acquire the site and keep the building with some of the nonprofit organizations there for a while or until it wanted to change, or they could have the building demolished with the other buildings on the site, and then they would deliver a different type of clean site. It would be environmentally clean, but also there would be no building on it, and so it would be ready for development. That might make it a little easier for the city to work with a nonprofit developer. If the city were to require it with the building on it and you had tenants in those buildings at such time that the city would be ready to demolish the building and develop, there would likely be additional costs to relocate those tenants. So something just to keep in mind. And it might be a question you might want to think about. Do we want it, would the city want it with the building or without the building? Then that would certainly be a consideration.
If we were to proceed without the building, would the prior property owner be able to assist with relocation for the nonprofits? Do you have other spaces available that can accommodate?
Yeah, that's been one of the questions Alex might have.
We don't have any other commercial office space. And sorry, Jeff Sobrato with Tim Steele, but we don't have any other commercial office space that's in the city of Milpitas. But what we've told staff is, and I just want to clarify one thing as well while I'm up here, since I feel like it's come up a couple times, but there's 3 different entities that we're kind of talking about. Tim and I represent the for-profit real estate arm, which has obviously IP that we work in developing for-profit real estate. Then we have the Sobrato Family Foundation, which is separate from Silicon Valley Community Foundation. And hopefully that's clear, but basically the reason the Community Foundation cannot operate any sort of real estate development, but they've been able to do this for us thus far, where they've operated a commercial building for us, is just out of respect from the relationship that we've had with them for so long, where we dedicated this real estate or donated this real estate over to the Community Foundation. And they agreed to kind of respect our wishes of saying, can we keep operating this as an office building by providing rent-free office space? But now we're to the point where we are repurposing the asset for all the reasons that Tim said, and their business is not to be an affordable housing developer. Sobrato Family Foundation's business is not to be an affordable housing developer, but affordable housing is a huge priority of our foundation. So we do want to focus on this. We don't want to go away. But as far as what's going to happen to the existing tenants, we've communicated to staff that, it's the intention of our foundation staff to not abandon these nonprofits. And Tim and I were actually just meeting with them, with a woman, Camille, who runs our family foundation, to meet with all the nonprofits, talk about a transition plan, and figure out, what of them are willing and able to stay in Milpitas. And we're willing to continue to work on that. Make sure that they're not abandoned.
Great.
Councilmember Fan, certainly the city has options to add conditions of approval when it's approving a land dedication of this nature, and some sort of assistance could be a condition of approval that this council decides.
No, I don't think it'd be necessary. I think, just that verbal commitment is good enough on my, at least for me. And I know Alex will be in touch with the teams on coordinating that. So, I want to streamline the process. So.
Thank you, Councilmember Fan. Anyone else would like to make any more comments? Okay, so this is just to take information and to more or less kind of feel for what the council would like to do, what direction. But as I mentioned, we want to bring it back so the other council members can have a say in this, because this is a big issue. City Manager?
Yeah, we can continue to work with the applicant or with the property owner, and we're happy to do that. And then as progress is made, we can bring that back at a future time with additional details.
If I may just make one quick statement regarding the current tenants. I just spoke with Mr. Steele, and they can deliver the project whereby the tenants would not be a part of that. They would have been relocated before that transaction. I'll let Mr. Steele answer any questions that you may have, but that's just another option that for you to consider. Did I get that?
Any last? Go ahead.
Or might be even more, because we were whispering. The tenants currently in the project are month to month. As we looked at this scenario of moving forward with it, the basis of it would have to have been delivering the property with no buildings on it. So as we've been talking with them, we've been letting them know, as Jeff indicated, that there is this ultimate redevelopment of the site. So we haven't been renewing leases, but we've been allowing them to stay in place on a month to month if they wish, with the idea eventually the site will be redeveloped.
And you did mention that most of them, since COVID hit, they
They're
haven't
not
been
there.
occupying the buildings.
Not really. They
Yeah.
might be there a day or two a week.
Yeah.
but they're not there 5 days a week and using the facilities.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, and we'll work with staff and just work with staff, and then we'll come bring it back.
Thank
you. Okay, now we're going to be okay. So we have item C5. Oh yes, excuse me. Item 12. We're going to defer that one for the next meeting, December 5th. What? No, it was it died. It died. Okay. Oh, so we're going to hear it. Okay. Okay, so I guess we're going to hear item 12, leadership and support services. So Ned.
So this item is a regular review of the requests that have been made from individual council members to provide direction to staff through the prioritization process. We have our Deputy City Manager, Matt Kano, here to present the staff report. And I believe we have a modified voting system because, or a modified voting concept because of the number of council members present.
Thank you. Matt Kano, Deputy City Manager. Can I have the slides up, please? Thank you. As City Manager Thomas mentioned, this is our quarterly report on prioritization of additional work plan items with the Mayor and City Council. Next slide, please. In summary, in January 2021, the City Council provided direction to staff to bring forward individual items requests from the members of the council on a quarterly basis for council consideration of prioritization. Through this process, the City Council since that time has reviewed over approximately 200 agenda requests. Council approved a specific policy for this prioritization on January 10th of this year. The last prioritization process that we had was on June 20th, and it included items that were introduced in the first half of the year. And staff right now is bringing forward items requested by council between June and October of this year. We were planning on coming in October, but this item has been deferred a few times. Next slide, please. In total, there's 44 items on the current list, organized into 4 groups. Group 1 items, those that have not been initiated because they require more than 4 hours of staff time, and there's 6 of those items. And group 2 items, those are, the group one, those are new items since the last prioritization. Group 2, those are also new items since the last prioritization effort. Some of them have been initiated, some of them have not. They require less than 4 hours of time, so we have not put them in group 1, and we are planning on working on them as noted in the attached spreadsheet to your agenda report. Group 3 items are items that are underway that have been prioritized or committed to being worked on in past prioritization efforts. And group 4, there's a list of items that have been postponed or completed, and there's 13 items on that list. The information for the group 1 items, which are the focus of this evening's discussion, included in your attachment to the agenda report, includes information on how much work we anticipate and potential costs, and any clarification we may need from the Mayor and City Council. In summary, those group 1 items that we're seeking your direction on this evening, estimated on an annual cost between $69,000 and $113,000, and one-time cost for those items would be $140,000 to $185,000. Next slide, please. I'm going to come back to this slide at the end. This is the prioritization process that we've discussed as part of the policy work earlier this year, and that we use each time we come to council on a quarterly basis for voting. Typically, we have 3 votes per council member in round 1, but since we only have 3 council members this evening, if we're proceeding with voting, we would recommend 2 votes per council member. And again, we'll come back to this slide and this voting process at the end of the presentation. Next slide, please. The group 1 items that have been that items have been requested and at the end of our city council agendas since June are on this list. Again, if you don't see it on this list, an item that you requested, it's likely on the group 2 item of items that are under 4 hours. And so we're already working on them. City charter evaluation, affordable housing ordinance change, potential safe parking site, city hall entrance public art, international festival on Main Street, and parade on Main Street. Next slide, please. The fiscal impact, I won't review this in detail. It is in the agenda report as well. The 6 items that I just mentioned in group 1 on this list are on this table, and our estimated ongoing costs and one-time costs for each of these items. Some of it is very preliminary. For example, the charter city evaluation, the one-time cost, that's for the initial analysis. It doesn't include potential ballot measure costs that if we decided to put that on the ballot, just as an example of the fact that some of these items aren't all inclusive of costs because we have not investigated them further yet. Next slide, please. So these next 6 slides, I'll briefly review the items that are up for our prioritization this evening. The charter city evaluation. There was a citizen recommended by Councilmember Fan. There was a citizen task force in 2001 that made recommendations to not proceed with the city charter. That's the most of the information we can find historically on when we have evaluated this as a city. There's a thick report in your packet this evening if you'd like to look through that to see the discussion and the deliberation that was made at that time. If this item is approved tonight, the steps would be identifying the management resources. We would need to discuss internally who would manage this effort. And we estimate about $40,000 for the initial cost evaluation and the community outreach that would be associated and the polling, et cetera, that would be associated with this charter city evaluation. If the city council elects to proceed with this item this evening, any feedback that we could receive this evening on any primary reasons for wanting to investigate becoming a charter city would be beneficial to us as we design the process moving forward, which would have community outreach and other investigation involved. Next slide, please. Number 2 is the affordable housing ordinance change. At the September 5th, 2023 meeting, Mayor Montano requested that staff explore the possibility of amending the affordable housing ordinance to increase the level of affordable housing required in new development from 15 to 20%. If this item proceeds this evening, staff would appreciate any clarification on whether the mayor and the city council have feedback on the level and methods of stakeholder outreach that staff should elicit prior to bringing this change forward. And if the mayor and city council are open to considering alternatives, such as alternatives beyond increasing it to 20%, such as if a developer proposes all extremely low income units, is the requirement lower than 20%, such as 10 or 15 or a different variety. Next slide, please. Number 3 is a potential safe parking site, also mentioned by Mayor Montano, brought forward by Mayor Montano. The work effort for this program, if we proceed, would be arranged in a phased approach, outreach, research of other cities' programs, and proceeding with the implementation of a safe parking program, which, as you all know, would be a location where our unhoused residents that possibly are living in a recreational vehicle or other type of vehicle could safely park in the evenings. If we proceed with this priority, staff would not have the capacity to simultaneously proceed with this and the affordable housing ordinance change without any management staffing augmentation. However, staff is assuming if we do proceed with this, that the focus of this would include partnerships with faith-based organizations, would be an all-inclusive program for all types of vehicles and persons, and it would include wraparound services such as mobile shower, laundry, case management, and assessments in order to provide greater opportunities for those Milpitas residents that would be using the safe parking site. Next slide, please. City Hall entrance public art. This was requested by our Mayor Montano. This referral requests the installation of public art piece in the City Hall lobby. Our cost estimate for this is about 80 staff hours with an estimate of $16,000 that would be paid out of the public art fund. Excuse me, this project would be scheduled to start in fiscal year 24-25. If it was desired by the mayor and city council to start this project earlier, we would need to bump another public arts project schedule, such as the Park Marker project, as an example, due to staffing capacity. Next slide, please. The next slide is the International Cultural Festival on Main Street, requested by Councilmember Lien. As some background, we do have over 40 current events in the city of Milpitas. At least 7 of those do have a cultural focus. 8 of those events that we do have are time limited in funding through ARPA. And we do plan on returning to council in January 2024 with the discussion with the mayor and city council on our events program, to discuss how to deal and manage with the fact that those 8 events are time limited in funding, and we will need to recognize that and act on that in this upcoming budget process. So we'll be in front of you in January to discuss that prior to the budget study sessions. The options, if we were to proceed with this item, would be to have an annual 1 evening small sized event on Main Street, such as a movie or a concert. We could integrate a multicultural theme into an already existing event organized by the city. However, that would not be on Main Street. Or we could do a new large 1 or 2 day festival celebrating multiculturalism of Milpitas with special event activities, etc. And that third item would be the most significant resource impact. If this item does move forward, clarification would help regarding which of these 3 items the council would like us to focus on. And as mentioned, regardless of this evening's vote, we are planning on coming forward to you with a holistic discussion of events in January. Next slide, please. This last item was requested by Mayor Montano as a parade on Main Street. And the background, I actually included the same background as the last slide. We do have 40 events, 7 with a cultural focus in Milpitas. And we do plan on returning in January with a larger discussion on events. Considerations that we would like feedback on this evening, if this item does proceed with to be prioritized, would be any feedback and coordination that you may have on how we would work with the businesses to minimize the impact during the parade for residents to access those businesses. And we wanted to recognize that the cost and the staff time of a parade is greater than a typical event, because it's as opposed to focusing on a park property, we are focusing on the public right of way, and there's more coordination involved with the businesses and road closures. Next slide, please. The recommendation this evening is to review the list of agenda item requests from individual council members and provide direction to staff through the prioritization process on which Group 1 items should be advanced, and provide additional input to staff, if any, on Group 1 items that receive council direction to advance, and then any Group 2 items or other items that council would like to provide us feedback on. And so if I could ask to return to slide 4, please. So as a next step, we would ask if the council would like to prioritize the Group 1 items. And if you would, that as I mentioned previously, typically we ask council members to provide the mayor and council to recommend moving forward with no more than 2 items. And those would be by a majority vote. And given that we have 3 here this evening, as opposed to 3 votes each in the first round, we would recommend 2 votes each. And any items that receive more than 2 or more votes would proceed forward. If we have less than 2 items, so let's say we have 0 or 1 item that receives, if we have 0 or 1 item that receives 2 votes, then we would possibly do additional rounds of voting. But my request would be, let's do that first round of voting with 2 votes each, and then see if we have 2 items that are moving forward, and then we can discuss next steps. And if the mayor and council would like to begin the voting process, we can.
So did we adjust the electronic voting for the 3?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I thought we had to do it a different way.
Oh, no, we've crossing our fingers. We think we got it. Our IT director is coming to provide any advice on accessing the system.
Public comment on this item?
I have no public speaker cards. When you are ready, the voting is open.
Two, yes, two.
So Dan, if I want to change mine. Back. I want to change mine.
Mayor, you should be able to refresh and vote again.
Thanks.
The first round of voting is ended. I will read out the results. Round one, Mayor Carmen Montano selected item 2, affordable housing ordinance change, and item 3, potential safe parking site. Round one, Councilmember Anthony Phan selected item 1, charter city evaluation, and item 5, an international festival on Main Street. Councilmember Han Lien selected a charter city evaluation, item 1, and item 5, the international festival on Main Street. Item 1 has received 2 votes. Item 5 has received 2 votes. There is no final result from this.
Thank you, City Clerk. So based on that, we do have 2 items that have received 2 votes. So that would close the voting based on what we talked about.
Okay, so what about the other council members that have not voted? They need to vote.
So that's obviously a question to Mayor and City Council. One item I wanted to read in our council policy, it discusses a City Council shall approve by a majority vote potential new major work plan items. So that's the way the policy reads. And so
Councilmember Phan, you said there was a council member that said they were going to vote.
The vote's been taken already. There's nothing more to be discussed.
Yeah, I just feel uncomfortable with just 3 people voting since we're supposed to represent the city. So anyway, it is what it is. All right, now moving on to Jerem, anything else? Announcement? Oh, C5. C5.
It's yes.
Oh, you have
Oh,
one.
before we move on, Mayor, I believe there was some additional direction. Did you want on
no,
any of those items? Or are you good?
We're comfortable if the council accepted the rest of the staff recommendations. What was the motion to accept the staff? I assume the motion was to accept the staff recommendations, which are pretty general, and move forward with those two prioritized items.
And then if it helps, Mayor, we will, this will give staff direction and we will put together some proposals and we'll bring those back at a time when the other council members are here that would be able to then weigh in on those particular items. And then any items that did not move forward, I believe, do they come back at our next prioritization cycle, or they need to be the council would need the other council members, or any of the items that did not move forward can be proposed again, and that would go into the next round for prioritization
Yeah, you're right.
early
They
next
can
year.
always be brought back again. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. I just want to clarify with the city attorney and city clerk was there. We did the voting, but I don't know that I heard a motion on that item. But if everybody else is comfortable, there was a motion. I'll move on.
So the clerk is going to call for the vote, for the motion, rather. I don't see anyone's name here. Councilmember Fan.
Move approval.
And then
Second.
has been moved by Councilmember Fan and seconded by Councilmember Lian. So let's take a vote.
Councilmember Lian,
Aye.
Councilmember Fan,
Aye.
Mayor Montano.
And I am an aye. Okay, unanimous vote. Thank you. And now moving on to the consent item that was pulled, C5. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Montano. This item is to authorize the city manager to negotiate an executed extension of the existing sister cities memorandum of understanding with the city of Dagupan, Philippines. And we have our deputy city manager, Matt Kano, here to discuss.
Thank you, City Manager Thomas. So we don't have a PowerPoint this evening, but I do want to mention that we're really excited. Our sister city, Dagupan, Philippines, is visiting us in 2 weeks, November 27th and 28th. And we'll be touring them of some of the facilities here in the city, and we'll also be giving them presentations. And they will actually be in town for 2 whole weeks. And the Dagupan Association of Northern California is also hosting them at some events as well. And so we're definitely, if it's not already, it'll be on your calendars. And hopefully during that Monday and Tuesday, November 27th and 28th, all or some of you can stop by at various times and join in the discussions for the visit. So we're really excited about that. They have been our sister city since 2003. The last time our MOU, Memorandum of Understanding with them, was updated was in 2000, or approved by council in late 2019. But it was actually signed in early 2020 for a period of 5 years. So it technically does last until early 2025. Although it's not expired yet, we did have a request, since they are visiting, from the Dagupan Association of Northern California for it to be extended for a longer period of time. There's actually, and so we are bringing that forward for your consideration, so that when they are out here visiting in a few weeks, we can, if you approve this, then it would really show that commitment to the long-term relationship. So there are 3 requests from the Dagupan Association of Northern California. One was to do the MOU in perpetuity. We did not recommend that in our agenda report. We recommended a 5-year term with 2 additional 5-year terms for a total of 15 years. Although we really, really appreciate the relationship, we hope it extends in perpetuity. It is not common practice for cities to make agreements in perpetuity. And so the representative and Mr. Esteves and I from the Dagupan Association of Northern California did speak. And I feel that, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I do feel that they are comfortable with that 15-year term. They also request that we name their organization, the Dagupan City Association of Northern California, in the MOU. I did not recommend that at the staff level. Typically, we do not name other organizations in MOUs between cities. However, there is no strong reason that I am aware of not to do that. So if the mayor and city council do want to put the Dagupan City Association of Northern California as a partner in the MOU, we can certainly do that. The third request they had that just came in yesterday is a new request, was to include a sister city committee with a city. As you know, we have a number of committees and commissions in the city of Milpitas, and we really value those commissions because they really help promote our connection with our community. However, they do take a lot of staff effort. And so as opposed to a separate sister cities committee, especially because we don't have a sister city staff member, we would recommend that if there's any reports to committee for the sister city, that would be reported to the Economic Development and Trade Commission on an annual basis. And we could ask the Dagupan City Association of Northern California to do that presentation with us. And so in summary, one of the three requests that the length of the agreement, we already feel that we included in our staff report and we're in agreement on. The other two requests regarding naming the Dagupan City Association of Northern California in the agreement and reporting to a committee, we do feel we have a solution to that if the mayor and council want. And I have some draft language that I could recommend if you want to include those two items in the MOU. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments from my colleagues? And we'll have Councilmember Ben.
Do we need public comment for this item? We do. Okay, I'll just move to open a public comment.
There's any public comment?
I have no public speaker cards.
Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to request the amendments requested by the organization be implemented into the MOU. So staff need clear direction for the motion. So the three amendments.
So let me have Councilmember Lynn put you on there. Go ahead, Councilmember Lynn.
Yes, so the recommendation is to authorize the city manager to negotiate these 5 years.
Which is 15 years.
Is that what you or motion? No. Okay.
But I will mention that we did speak to the president, Mr. Estevez, and he is in support of the 15 years, 5-year extension. Is that okay? Yeah.
Can I get my okay? No, that's not my request. My request is to incorporate the original amendments proposed by Mr. Estevez and the Dagupan Sister Cities organization.
Okay, thank you for that. So the first one would be that make the MOU in perpetuity, and that's what you're suggesting. And then the second one is include his organization, the Dagupan City Association of Northern California, DCANC, as a named partner in the MOU. And the third one is a sister city committee to be established. Okay. And staff's recommendation, which Mr. Estevez was okay with, the two 15 years, total of 15 years. As you were, and then staff recommendation is that to not include, the staff did not include this in his recommendation if the mayor and the city council wish to do so, that we have a drafted suggested language below. And then that was as part of the MOU, include the following language, that the city of Milpitas and the city of Dagupan would partner with the Dagupan City Association of Northern California, DCANC, to advance this relationship. The DCANC should provide an annual update on activities undertaken to advance this relationship to the city's Economic Development and Trade Commission. And then the third one is where the recommendation from the group was a sister city committee be established. And again, the city recommendation is this is a new request as of yesterday. Staff did not include this in this recommendation. If the mayor and city council wish to do so, we have drafted suggested language below. And that was the one I just read. So is there a second for this? You're making a motion then. Okay. And then so is there a second? So Han.
Second.
Could I ask for a staff clarification on that before the vote? Thank you. Regarding I understand number one regarding perpetuity, that's clear. I understand number two, including the Dagupan City Association of Northern California in the MOU, that's clear. Regarding the third request, we haven't fully vetted that with Mr. Esteves regarding the sister city committee request. We, at this point in time, don't have the staff resources to establish a new city council committee or a new city commission. If the city council would permit, we would love to have the option of incorporating those updates into an existing commission, such as a Parks Recreation Commission, Cultural Commission, or the Economic Development and Trade Commission. Okay, thank you.
So we would have our city manager would like to make a comment.
I believe the deputy city manager covered what I was going to say just right there at the end. We also have, I was going to mention that we also have the Parks and Recreation and Cultural Resources Commission that typically would handle something related to cultural exchange. Or if it's something related to trade, then it would go to the EDTC. So we have either of those options as well.
Right. It could also be the Parks and Recreation Commission for the committee. So we have a motion by Councilmember Fan and then a seconded by Councilmember Lin. I'm sorry, did you say something? Hold on.
Actually, I would like us to move forward with a separate commission. Does not have to be right away. You can take your time on it, but the original request still stands.
So we can also bring this back. If you, what I would like to see, if I would like to see more discussion with Mr. Esteves to see if this committee, if he would like to see it be on a Parks and Recreation or the EDC, Economic Development Trade Commission. Perhaps they're coming at our next meeting, but I do agree that we should go ahead and keep all of these, but the committee is a little bit in a gray area.
I would suggest to the maker of the motion as well, and the mayor and city council, that whether or not we establish a sister cities commission as a city of Milpitas and how often and frequently do those updates likely isn't something we would want to put in the agreement with Dagupan. And so if it's okay, we can take this recommendation from you and still complete the MOU with the perpetuity and including Dagupan City Association of Northern California in the actual MOU. And then regarding the request for a separate sister city committee or commission, we can take that request back and continue to discuss that with you.
Is that fine? Okay. All right. And I think that's it, or do we need to take a vote?
We need to take a vote, Mayor.
Okay. All right.
Councilmember Lian.
Aye.
Councilmember Fan.
Aye.
Mayor Montano.
And I am an aye. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, now it is the end of our meeting, it is on 9 o'clock or close to that. And we'll call for an adjournment. Is there any staff comments?
I do have one quick announcement. Mayor, next week will be Thanksgiving. Holiday City Hall will be closed on Thursday and Friday, and I just wanted to wish the council and the staff and the community a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. And anyone else? So I'd like to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone and have a peaceful and a joyous time with your family. And meeting is adjourned.